Greetings dear friends, Dragon here once again. It is finally time for us to dive properly into Chameleon Films' recent release of Xiao-Dong's Motorway, and if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'm going to be announcing the winner of the competition that I launched a couple of weeks ago to win the standard edition, but today I'm going to be unboxing the limited edition version, which comes with the soundtrack CD, doing a proper review of the movie, and then at the end I will announce the winner of this edition. Stay tuned, let's get into the unboxing. Okay, so as I had explained in the competition launch video, Chameleon put out two different versions of Motorway. There was this, the special edition, which comes with a CD soundtrack by composers Xavier Jameau and Alex Gopher, and then the kind of regular version, which is still a special edition, really loaded with special features, just doesn't have a soundtrack CD. So this is the one that's getting given away. Keep an eye at the end of the video for the winner to be announced for that, but for now, let's take a little look inside the special edition. So we're getting it inside this nice full slip case. I think they're going to be doing full slips for all their releases moving forward, and this started with their release of Election Part 1 and Part 2, and then they kind of retrospectively put out O-ring cases for their previous 3 releases. So this is release number 6 by number 6, and they are numbering their spines, and I think one of the few labels that I'm going to very likely try and track down every single one as things move forward, because I've absolutely been adoring what they've been doing so far. They've focused in quite heavily on Johnnie To, with 1 Japanese movie and 4 Johnnie To movies, and then this 6th entry is directed by Xiao-Dong but produced by Johnnie To. So we'll get this out of here. Xiao-Dong riding high at the moment, as he is the chap who directed Twilight of the Warriors Walled In, which is doing phenomenally well in the Hong Kong box office. But enough rambling, let's take a little look. So this just slides off the bottom, this kind of little wee mini, almost like a little kind of cross between an Obi strip and a J card, but just a little wrapped around the bottom, which gives us our CD track listing on the back. And then aside from that, you're basically back to an identical box to the regular edition. Inside here, again, a gorgeous scannable case. Love scannable full height cases. Not having the kind of wasted bit of space means you get a little bit more space for artwork. It's the ones that Criterion use, and the ones that Radiance use. I'm a huge fan of them. I wish everybody would use these. And inside here we're getting our 2 discs. So this is our soundtrack CD here, and then our movie disc on Bluray. Our info on the back, and we've got a reversible cover, so you can either have the same images on the front of the slip, and then an alternate image here. We'll go with that one for variety. And then all of our extra features on the back, along with a description of the movie. We'll get into all of that when I'm doing the review. And then we're getting a booklet, which has got Fast Times in Hong Kong by Gary Beddington, interview with screenwriter Joey O'Brien by James Brown, and then our Blu-ray credits. Very nice indeed, pretty simple but really nicely produced, gorgeous paper. A nice image of our 2 heroes on the front, Anthony Wong and Shawn Yue. An alternate shot on the back. Pretty cool. So I will jump away just now, and I'm going to check out the film and the extra features, and then we'll be back to give you a proper review. So keep on watching.
學識控制自己架車。 冇俾人帶住走，行自己要行嘅路，要衝嘅時候就去到盡。個巡邏有會注意，有疑犯喺警署逃走，疑犯係中國籍男子，有武器。從來沒有警察能夠追到我，就係我停到佢啊！
And we're back. So having checked out the movie and every single one of the extra features on the disc, I can safely say that this has jumped to pole position for me as really, I think, my favourite release that Chameleon has put so far. Maybe a tie with Johnnie To's Breaking News, I think, is maybe the best 2, or the ones that have resonated the most with me from the releases that Chameleon have put out so far. But just an exceptional package that has been put together for really an absolutely wonderful slice of Hong Kong cinema. So I mean, the movie's aged very, very well. It's shot in 2012. The back of the box likes to kind of compare it slightly to Drive by Nicholas Refn Winding, starring Ryan Gosling. I found it an infinitely less pretentious affair than Drive can be, and I love Drive, but it is got one tongue firmly in a pretty pretentious cheek at times. it's just the way his movies generally are. But Motorway, much more unashamedly commercial, though shot not in a way that we normally kind of see commercial movies kind of being lensed, really. It's kind of almost borderline abstract in places, so they've worked it into the narrative really, really nicely. So before getting too deep into the specifics, let's jump a little bit into the overview of the story. I'm going to keep this spoiler free, but we do have to kind of cover some of the beats. So I'm going to, maybe mild spoilers is a safer way to say it. If you want to go in completely cold, then maybe skip this bit and jump to the end for the competition results. But a very simple story, really. It revolves around principally three characters. So we have our two police, or our two kind of undercover car transit officers, really, whose job's really meant to be to kind of monitor and try and document people committing crimes rather than giving chase. Though we kind of see quite quickly that the younger of our two characters, played by Shawn Yue, quite impetuous, quite hot-headed, and very quick to kind of jump into giving pursuit to anybody who he sees kind of breaking the law and try and actually chase him down, because he absolutely adores driving, really. He's partnered with a much more veteran, much more restrained, much more calm, collected officer played by the wonderful Anthony Wong, and really one of his finest performances that I've kind of seen, which is saying something, because he's been in a whole bunch of movies, Anthony Wong, but he's really on fine form here as the kind of the veteran officer, kind of trying to keep this young pup in check. And trying to kind of steer him onto the right path, really essentially to kind of make sure that he doesn't really shoot himself in the foot by being a bit too reckless. So we see our two basically going about their job and doing what they should be doing. While this is going on, we see another driver based in mainland China who's kind of called into action, who's going to be basically our main villain of the piece. He's played by Xiao-Dong, who is kind of pulled in to try and basically break out a thief that he's worked with in the past, who's been doing a job in Hong Kong and has basically been arrested and imprisoned for it. So ultimately his job is to kind of try and break him out of prison and then help him in the various kind of different criminal pursuits that he's engaged in. So but really it's a kind of meeting of our three kind of main drivers. This is a film that unashamedly really examines the kind of the love and the thrill of driving, though it's not always a particularly high octane experience. There is a whole bunch of kind of high speed pursuits, but for me the best moments in the film and the most tension in the film came actually from much slower moments. There's kind of one sort of special move that is used by our mainland Chinese driver, so used by the villain of the piece, where he's able to kind of execute a sort of drifting 90-degree turn. He usually does this at quite low speeds, but he does this as a way of basically navigating out of different situations. So there's a pretty great pursuit through really very narrow alleyways, which Hong Kong has many of, and he's able to kind of evade the police by literally turning on a knife edge and turning 90 degrees and then kind of getting away. So kind of part of the narrative of the film is Shawn Yue's character really having to kind of learn or evolve to try and adapt this skill set to be able to kind of ultimately go up against this guy. We learn as the film goes on, but there's a little bit of a backstory between Anthony Wong's character and the villain. They'd kind of met in the past, and the villain had got the better of Anthony Wong. So he basically is able to kind of impart his experience to Shawn Yue, kind of act as the way a mentor or a sifu would in a kung fu movie, and kind of teach him the special move, which in this case is the driving move, and ultimately allow Shawn Yue to kind of evolve into where he needs to be able to actually kind of go toe to toe or car to car or drift to drift with our main villain. But yeah, just incredibly well shot and really much more fantastically shot than I was expecting. So although the storyline's quite grounded, the cinematography is really not. It takes quite a lot of pretty creative choices with how it's showing us the action. The villain's got a tendency to kind of wheel spin a lot to kind of create a huge amount of smoke on the road, and I'm sure they've supplemented this with dry ice in places, but this sort of misting effect that you kind of get, which he uses to his advantage a number of times, really, particularly in kind of if they're driving up in the hills, which they do a couple of times on really a lot of knife edge turns, which will have a drop or a cliffside on the other side. He'll basically wheel spin before going into it to create this huge amount of smoke, so the other driver can't really see exactly what he's following, and there's some great shots of really the villain's car disappearing into this sort of smoke layer, kind of like a mist or a fog in the night, which works really well, really atmospheric, and just beautifully, absolutely beautifully shot. It was two cinematographers, Feng Yun Man and Chung To, who did an incredible job, really. So the film looks absolutely spectacular, and because so much of it is shot at night, I wasn't too sure how well the transfer would hold up, but it's incredible. Still see a huge amount of detail in the kind of blackest moments. You can still kind of get a sense of what's going on. You never really feel lost by the action, which could have really easily happened given how much of it's shot in really low light situations. There's quite a few sequences that take place in kind of underground car parks, and they play around with literally kind of shooting out the lights at points. You are seeing an awful lot of action taking place in really dim environments, and it just helps build the suspense and build the tension. And it's surprising for me, for a film that's so much about driving, that so much of the tension came in these moments where the cars are barely moving, if moving at all. Just a testament to Xiao-Dong's incredible directing, really. But all three of our main leads did spectacularly well. There's a kind of great little bit of supporting casting from Barbie Sue, who doesn't really play that big a part in the film, but she kind of comes around at a few really quite integral points in the story that kind of works really well to sort of, I kind of say, to kind of punctuate Shawn Yue's development through the film, because there is quite a character arc for him. Really a character arc for everybody, really, but principally for Shawn Yue. He's the one that kind of undergoes the most amount of change throughout the kind of the film. And he, in a little bit of a, not going to call it a cliche, maybe a generic trope, the young driver ultimately has to kind of adapt and change to kind of mirror a little bit more the veteran who he's been working with throughout the film, and so he kind of adopts an awful lot more of Anthony Wong's characteristics by the time that we get to our last act. And that's about as much as I'm going to say. I think, and as much as I appreciate the comparison to Drive, I would say for me, I got shades of Initial D, the other Hong Kong film which also starred Anthony Wong from 2005. As it's stylistically and tonally, particularly in some of the night sequences and driving through the hills, I saw a few parallels there. I think Cheang indeed says in one of the two articles in the booklet that was very much a bit of an inspiration moving into it. There's some great special features on the disc. So we get a fantastic commentary by Arnav Venema and Big Mike Leader, who kind of really do a great job of outlining whereabouts we are in Hong Kong through much of the action. And also going to give reference to kind of other kind of key films that the various cast and crew have been involved in. Mike really is a great story of coming at a bar drunk one night and kind of seeing a whole bunch of crew holding up white pieces of card over CCTV cameras, and then seeing Shawn Yue and Anthony Wong hurtling past because they were clearly filming this guerrilla style on the streets. So there's some great chases through the middle of Hong Kong, which I'm sure were done pretty much illegally, so kind of quite a big element of guerrilla filmmaking, as is often the case in Hong Kong cinema. But yeah, really great commentary from those guys. The two included kind of essays inside the booklet, both really good. I think Gary Bettinson does a great deep dive into Xiao-Dong's career and speaks about really how it's evolved throughout the years and the type of films that he made. Essentially, he was a student of Johnnie To, kind of started as assistant director for him, and I think for Ringo Lam a few times too. And it's kind of really interesting kind of seeing him dive into his roots. I think he did reach out and did a couple of sort of short interview sections which he'd kind of drawn from to kind of make the bulk of his booklet. The bulk of his essay in the booklet. And then James Brown from Chameleon also did an interview with the original screenwriter. It's an American screenwriter, Joey O'Brien, who speaks about what the original concept for the film was and how that kind of evolved and changed, and how, I think, open to the fact that he was of allowing it to evolve and change. And he gives full credit to it kind of being very much a kind of a collaboration with Xiao-Dong, with the producer Johnnie To, and a couple of additional scriptwriters from Hong Kong who changed the story into what it ended up becoming. We also get a full hour of behind the scenes, what I would describe as sort of B-roll footage, which is really interesting to see, which is mostly, you can kind of see how they've staged the filming of an awful lot of the chase sequences. You can see the camera cars working, and it's largely dialogue free, as B-roll usually is, but really fascinating to see if you're a fan of any kind of cinema being made. I always kind of loved seeing B-roll and behind the scenes when I was a film student. It's great to kind of see it here. We also get a bunch of archive interviews with Shawn Yue, Anthony Wong, with Barbie Sue, with the director Xiao-Dong, and with Johnnie To. All really entertaining, and they're presented by basically, we see text-based questions, and then we get their video responses, video answers. And we also get a brand new interview with the composer, who's a long-time Johnnie To collaborator. The main composer for this is Xavier Jameau, who the soundtrack CD on the special edition, it's most of his work, along with Alex Gopher, but he is the kind of sole guy in the interview when they're interviewing him, and he speaks an awful lot about his process, how he kind of came to work with Johnnie To, what that was like, because they worked on a number of different movies together, and then gets quite specific on the work that he did for Motorway, which is really good. It's kind of aged really well, and electronic music from that era doesn't always, but it holds up. It's pretty stark and quite minimal. and kind of works really well to kind of drive the action forwards. Yeah, so for me, just an absolutely fantastic release of really a wonderful film, and it's great seeing how Xiao-Dong's developed over the last over a decade now, and to where he's at now with Twilight of the Warriors rolled in. A wonderful, wonderful kind of movie to revisit from earlier in his career. Hopefully it'll be the first of a few Xiao-Dong movies that we see from Chameleon, because he certainly has a bunch of other movies in his filmography I would love to see getting the special edition treatment from them. And now it comes the time to announce the winner for the standard edition, which I'm giving away. And happy to say this is going to Paul FNY, who left a comment. Kind of picked Paul because he'd never actually seen a Xiao-Dong movie, and I think I kind of want this to kind of go to somebody who's not experienced his film so far. I did deliberate that for quite a long time, because there's some great entries from people who were a lot more familiar with Xiao-Dong's back catalogue, but for me, I think I'd be happiest to kind of introduce this to somebody who's not really familiar with Xiao-Dong's work so far. So congratulations to Paul, and Paul, I will reach out to you on Instagram or message me on Instagram and send me your address, and I'll get this in the post to you. Thank you everybody who entered. I'm sure I'll have another competition coming before too long, so don't be disheartened if you didn't win this one. You might win the next one. I've been the Fanatical Dragon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.